Top 10 Cold War secrets finally revealed. For decades, the Cold War was more than just a standoff between East and West. It was a shadow war fought in back alleys, coded messages, and underground bunkers. Millions knew the tension. Few knew the truth. Behind the iron curtains and classified documents were secrets so shocking, their revelation would shake the foundation of what we thought we knew about global history. And now finally, some of those secrets have been declassified, uncovered, and confirmed. From mind control programs to hidden nuclear accidents and spies hiding in plain sight, these are the revelations that once would have gotten people silenced, imprisoned, or worse. The Cold War wasn't just a geopolitical struggle, it was a global chess match where intelligence agencies, militaries, and scientists fought silent wars using espionage, technology, propaganda, and psychological warfare. What made this era so chilling wasn't just the threat of nuclear war, but the veil of secrecy under which so many events occurred. Governments on both sides went to extraordinary lengths to cover up failures, experiments, and operations. And while much remained hidden for decades, the passing of time, investigative journalism, and declassification laws have finally brought many secrets into the light. In this video, we explore the top 10 Cold War secrets that have finally been revealed. These are not conspiracy theories. These are verified events that were once buried under layers of secrecy, but now tell us the real story of the Cold War era. Number #10, Project MKUltra. Mind control experiments. Perhaps the most infamous Cold War secret to come to light is Project MKUltra, a CIA program that tested mind control, hypnosis, and drug-induced interrogation. From the early 1950s to the 1970s, the CIA carried out unethical experiments on both willing and unsuspecting individuals. LSD, electroshock therapy, and sensory deprivation were used in an attempt to create controllable agents and extract information. When documents were declassified in the 1970s, the public was outraged. Victims never received full justice. To this day, many documents remain missing or were intentionally destroyed. But what we know confirms that the US government knowingly experimented on its own citizens in pursuit of psychological weapons. Number #9, the Soviet nuclear disaster before Chernobyl. Everyone remembers Chernobyl in 1986, but very few knew about Kishtim, a secret nuclear disaster that occurred in 1957 in the Ural Mountains at the Mayak facility. Due to improper storage of nuclear waste, a massive explosion released radioactive material across hundreds of square kilometers. Thousands were exposed, entire towns were evacuated and erased from maps, but the Soviet government never officially acknowledged it until decades later. The Western world had no clue this disaster had occurred until satellite imagery and defectors began revealing the truth. Even today, the full extent of the contamination is unclear. It remains one of the worst nuclear accidents in history, yet it was kept hidden for decades. Number #8, Operation Gladadio, NATO's secret armies. Operation Gladadio was a clandestine NATO program aimed at preparing Europe for a possible Soviet invasion. But what it actually became was far more controversial. Under Gladadio, secret paramilitary groups were established across Western Europe. They were meant to be stay-behind armies ready to resist Soviet occupation. But some of these groups were later linked to terrorist attacks, assassinations, and political manipulation, all under the radar of the public. When the operation was exposed in the 1990s, it triggered outrage across Europe, especially in Italy, where Gladadio operatives were linked to right-wing bombings used to sway public opinion. Number #7, the Berlin Tunnel Espionage Project. In 1954, the CIA and British intelligence secretly dug a 1,500-foot tunnel into Soviet-controlled East Berlin to tap into underground telephone lines used by the Red Army. The operation, codenamed Operation Gold, was a massive engineering feat. For nearly a year, the West listened in on sensitive Soviet communications. However, the mission was compromised from the very beginning by double agent George Blake, who had already told the KGB about the plan. The Soviets chose not to reveal their knowledge immediately, using the opportunity to feed misinformation. The tunnel was finally discovered by the Soviets in 1956 and used as a propaganda victory. Years later, the full story revealed the extent of espionage taking place and how even the most brilliant operations could be doomed by betrayal. Number #6, Dead Hand, Russia's doomsday machine. During the Cold War, both the US and USSR had second strike capabilities, but the Soviets went one step further by creating an automated nuclear retaliation system known as Dead Hand or Perimeter. This secret system, which wasn't confirmed until the 1990s, could launch nuclear weapons automatically if sensors detected a devastating attack on Soviet leadership. It was designed to ensure mutual assured destruction, even if no human was left to press the button. The terrifying reality? It still exists today, albeit in a modernized form. The idea that machines, not people, could determine the fate of humanity was once science fiction. It was Cold War reality. Number #5. The U-2 incident and Francis Gary Powers. In 1960, the U.S. government was caught red-handed when American pilot Francis Gary Powers was shot down over Soviet airspace during a secret reconnaissance mission in a U-2 spy plane. At first, the U.S. denied any wrongdoing, claiming a weather plane had gone off course. But when the Soviets presented Powers alive along with the plane wreckage, the lie collapsed. This incident escalated Cold War tensions and exposed the truth. The U.S. had been regularly violating Soviet airspace. Powers was sentenced to prison but later exchanged in a high-profile spy swap. The full mission logs and CIA memos weren't fully revealed until decades later, confirming just how deeply both sides had penetrated enemy territory through aerial surveillance. Number #4, Operation Northwoods, a false flag proposal. In the early 1960s, top U.S. military officials proposed Operation Northwoods, a shocking plan to commit acts of terrorism on American soil to justify a war against Cuba. The proposed false flag attacks included hijacking planes, sinking boats of Cuban refugees, and staging bombings in U.S. cities, all blamed on Fidel Castro's government. Though President Kennedy rejected the plan, its existence wasn't known until declassified documents emerged in the 1990s. It showed that even democratic governments considered extreme actions in the name of national security. Number #3, Soviet submarine K-129 mystery. In 1968, Soviet submarine K-129 sank in the Pacific Ocean under mysterious circumstances. The Soviets couldn't locate it, but the U.S. could. Using deep-sea technology, the CIA launched Project Azorian, a covert operation to recover the sunken vessel and its secrets. The mission involved building a massive ship, the Hughes Glomar Explorer, under the guise of deep-sea mining. Though they recovered only part of the submarine, it was enough to analyze Soviet technology and gather intelligence. The entire operation remained secret until journalists uncovered it in the 1970s. Even today, the true cause of the submarine's sinking remains disputed. Some suspect it was related to a rogue nuclear launch. Number #2, the U.S. biological weapons tests on its own citizens. During the Cold War, the U.S. conducted numerous biological and chemical weapons tests, often on its own population, without consent. In one infamous 1950 experiment, the U.S. Navy sprayed Serratia marcescens, a supposedly harmless bacteria, over San Francisco to study dispersal patterns. Hospitals later reported a spike in rare infections, including one death. Other tests occurred in New York City subways, on military personnel, and in rural towns. These experiments weren't officially acknowledged until decades later when documents were declassified. These revelations confirmed long-standing suspicions that Cold War secrecy allowed ethical boundaries to be completely erased in the name of national security. Number #1, the Cuban Missile Crisis. How close we really came. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 is often taught as a 13-day standoff that ended with diplomacy. But newly declassified records and interviews show just how close the world came to nuclear war and how much was kept from the public. At the time, President Kennedy knew Soviet nuclear warheads were already on Cuban soil and ready for launch. What he didn't know was that Soviet submarines near Cuba were also armed with nuclear torpedoes and were close to firing when U.S. ships dropped warning depth charges. The decision not to launch came down to one Soviet officer, Vasily Arkhipov, who refused to authorize the strike. His restraint quite literally saved the world. The full scope of these near-miss events wasn't revealed until decades later, reinforcing the terrifying fragility of peace during the Cold War. These newly revealed truths change how we understand history. They remind us that the Cold War was not only fought with weapons, but with deception, manipulation, and unimaginable risks. As more documents continue to be declassified and insiders speak out, even more Cold War secrets may come to light. But for now, these 10 revelations give us a glimpse into the chilling depths of a war fought in the shadows. If you found this video thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more history beneath the headlines, and we're here to uncover it.